So for everyone who's watching this now, we have quite a few interesting characters here. We have, besides Jana Hose, who's can't currently decide which gender he belongs to. We have Yerla from Chile, who is an avid trickliner and very passionate, visited us last year in Europe and had hopefully a great time. I think she traveled to a few countries. We have Rosa, who is probably one of the biggest inspiration when it comes to dynamic static slacklining. She's incredible on that path, lives in Peru. The guy you just saw in the background is our current world champion in the team Tricklining. His name is Chosa. And yeah, there he is. Then in the middle we have Olga, our world record hunter and specialist when it comes to high heel slacklining. And I guess she will explain a little bit more as well what she's doing. And she's very active when it comes to working with People Are Awesome. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And is very proactive and very inspiring in that sense. And I'm very thankful that you're here today. And,
thank you.
Unfortunately, I cannot see the other people, Sarah, Claire, Manuela, Lev. I think in the case of the conversations, feel free to show yourself. I haven't got makeup on myself, so
Hey guys.
there's nothing to be afraid of. And if you want, of course, you can introduce yourself as well in a moment. Like I said, the idea here is a little bit as well to just wanted to check. Here we go. Hello, Claire.
Hello.
So what we have done is we've collected a few questions already in advance. I've got a few questions as well. I think there's a general notion when it comes to tricklining and girls that it's like in every other extreme freestyle sport, that girls are sort of like always pushed in the back because adrenaline crazy men, this is the way I see it, often push the boundaries and the limits very fast, and sort of like the focus comes on the extreme side and not so much on the lifestyle side in that sense. And I think what I would like to wish for this meeting is that we come out sort of like with a general notion towards creating sort of like an idea, why should girls trickline? And I think that we find and collect these reasons why, and also inspire from that perspective maybe other girls to start tricklining and see what we have to do and what we have to collect. Yeah, so I think from that side, if anyone wants to say anything before we start with the question sessions. Does anyone have a question before the question session? No? Okay. So you can, I think I've switched on and I've invited everyone. I've got Valentina coming in. Valentina from Chile? Yes, must be Valentina. Ah, there she is.
Valentina.
So, as I said, I think it would be great if we can sort of like share an experiences, our experiences, and also sort of like say like, okay, where can we actually? There's another person, I think, Giada from Italy, I think, and so that we come out sort of like with yeah, a general notion on where we can go. So, like I said, we have collected a few questions on that side. So, can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just need to split my screen.
Hi.
Hello. We've got Estonia, Peru, Chile, Italy, Italia.
Yes.
Manuela, where are you from?
She's from Italy.
Ah, okay. All right.
Hi, Manuela belongs to the world.
Okay. So I would suggest I just start going through the questions. I myself have actually quite a few questions because I want to sort of like understand where we can play a role. Oh, we've got Yo-Yo coming in now.
Jujumeka?
Is it Kugler? Yo-Yo? Must be Yo-Yo Kugler. So like I said, I've got a few questions actually myself, and I think the general question, where shall women's tricklining be developed? In which direction should it go? And I think that's like the general question, I guess, which goes across the whole entire topic, in my opinion. But like I said, if you guys, this is not a monologue. I don't want to sort of like just sit here and talk about my opinions and so on. I would like to push you guys to get a discussion going, because this is where I want to help. I want to help for you guys to build up more possibilities to interact, to inspire, and also to give us a little bit more direction. Valentina's coming back in. And to inspire basically, and to motivate, and know better where we can sort of like support from our side. Because I think it's not just down to organizing women's contests, which is definitely a big topic, but it's also down to how we can position girls tricklining. I think when we look at tricklining skateboarding, girls skateboarding is growing a lot as far as I can follow, and it's been always sort of like this movement away from just the sports industry, which always does the shrink it and pink it. So that's from my experience. It's like when you look at products, when you look at sports and activities, and there's the general notion, let's first make it for men and then make it smaller, more easily accessible and pink. And I think that's sort of like an old school way of thinking, in my opinion. And that's where I want to sort of like break the barriers and yeah, and help you guys to build up this whole story.
You mean like the only trick line that's belongs to like the girl isn't pink?
What? Yeah, I mean, what can I say, you know? But it's not just pink. But what we tried to do actually with Euro's trying to get back in again.
My favorite is Jan's line anyway. I mean, Jana's line.
Yeah, I mean, with the elements line, what we've done actually, we've tried to make it with even less braking strength, so it becomes a bit softer. So everything okay, Niela?
Yeah.
How's your arm? Okay. Okay. So what I would suggest, maybe I would like to open up the round. Like I said, my first question is, where do you see tricklining for women? And where maybe do you see the biggest problems you guys are facing in your everyday life, inside social media, when you're basically working on positioning yourselves in what you do?
I can start.
Yeah, feel free.
I think it's great, first of all, that you guys are interested in this topic, and I really appreciate putting like one of the most leaders in tricklining together in this Zoom conversation. I think that's how it starts. Like, I think it's a great start. with the female tricklining, I think tricklining in general is hard to practice without conditions, like without having a place to train. Like, as you can see, like best trickliners come from either a good gym where people can train, or it's a setup next to the house where people can like spend a lot of time training. I don't think you can help with that. That's something that like each athlete has to figure out like herself. But I think what's motivating is competitions, but not in the way that we used to think about them, you know, like, oh, it's Gibbon Masters or something like this. I think the most motivating stuff, like to bring more people into the sport, is competitions for beginners or competitions for amateurs, which can give motivation since the person starts tricklining. Because that way, first of all, you meet other people who are on the same level like you, who can support you, who can help you grow. Like, let's say Claire, she's great with statics, and when we met in Brazil, I saw her grow, like learning tricklining tricks, just meeting her at different competitions. So it's amazing how that can give you motivation to move forward. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a female competition. It can be just a beginner competition or amateur competition. And it's actually pretty fun to watch. When I was in Brazil, we had a separate female beginners and amateur competitions. And people were just cheering, like just as much cheering for beginners, amateurs, and females as for pros.
Mm-hmm. I guess I try to imagine it from a perspective when I used to skateboard, and I wasn't a very good skateboarder, but I was a passionate skateboarder when I was a teenager. And I think skateboarding has reached sort of like a progression level where, of course, you can jump more steps, you can do bigger flips, you can try jump bigger gaps, but I think it's not about that anymore. So it's a lot about finding your own style and your own character in what you do. And this is what we tried to do from the start with the team we've built up in slacklining. And the other thing is what I think, the way I would interpret it, I totally agree with you. This is what we've been trying to do right from the start with King of and Queen of Slackline, is to sort of like grab people more from a beginner level and amateur level and help them progress. And I think at least within the men's world, we've managed to do that. I mean, we have Jana here as the perfect example, who sort of like progressed with King and Queen of Slackline. And I see always the similarity, like in terms of like intimidation and embarrassment. And like, I just had a similar experience, and the experience I had with skateboarding, for example, always when like sort of like the pro teams would come from Etnies or whatever to our local skate park, or when I would see like the really good skateboarders out there, I would have super shaky legs. And it would always sort of like, I would always have to sort of like slap me mentally to get over this point till I understood that these people actually weren't judging me on my skill level, but on my commitment. If you understand what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where there's the first big bottleneck I always seem to experience, sort of like when sort of like the macho men come up and say like, yeah, I'm going to do crazy trick lining, and then there's sort of like no room anymore for anyone else. And that's sort of like something I've experienced, at least from my own side. And that's not just girls, it's even with seeing a Jan Rose going crazy, going crazy, you're like, oh, should I show myself, you know? And I think that's something I would love to talk about more. And at the same time, sure, I think at times of these right now, it's something I want to come out definitely is to do more online stuff and also motivate people and especially girls and women, of course, to try out tricklining and help. And coming back to the whole topic is like progressing to a certain level. I mean, we do have this app or this tool called Slackspot, where we've got now nearly 2,000 different spots worldwide. I think it's also inspiring and helping. I guess if like the people who are better say like, hey, by the way, you know that I have got certain spots where you can come and train. You know, I mean, Allison is doing it his own way with, for example, his center in Brazil, for example. But you've got your spot in the Muscle Beach. Which one is it called again, Olga?
Yeah. It's Santa Monica Muscle Beach.
Yeah. So I think, you know, these are sort of like the places that we should try to invite people more and motivate them to like come and train with me, or here is a place where you can maybe try out. And like you said, it doesn't have to start straight away with a line that is super high. It can start also with, when you look at Jan Rose, probably he can probably do 100 different tricks with a line that is only 50 centimeters high.
It's a little bit, I think it's a very individual. Like I know like some girls like I learned and I prefer a lower line, but I know some girls feel really comfortable in higher line.
Yeah.
So, and like I just wanted to say one more thing before I give the mic to the next person. But so I think you guys as a big company, like it's probably like the only company that's left as our hope for the future. As for now, I think what you could do, I think maybe like Rosa and Claire will talk a little bit more about like separating, like having different competitions for statics and for tricklining. But what I want to say is that if you could financially bring best girls, like we don't have any Japanese athletes in this Zoom call, but they're the best trickliner athletes in the world. So if you guys could, I know there is like a competitions in Japan, but if you could organize a competition at least like maybe once in 2 years, and to bring best female athletes, not just Gibbon athletes, but best trickliner like female athletes from like all over the world, is similar how Japanese did it for full combo. That would push the sport a lot.
Yes.
Because people would look forward to it. They know like you only go if you're the best. I know I won't go. So it would push the sport so much.
Yeah.
Because there are girls who are amazing. Like they're 8 years old, 10 years old, but they're crushing it.
Hmm. I wouldn't disagree on that side. I think this is something people have to understand a little bit better is, and there's a little bit of a misconception. We're not a huge company. We are happy, and there's a reason why we're still surviving, because we sort of like manage our business in a way that we can survive. But it's not a flourishing business. And it's not a flourishing, and when you look at sort of like any of the other sports, it's normally not the brands that organize these type of things. We just sort of like jumped into the whole thing, and then everyone else started copying us. Because when we started in 2007, we saw that slacklining can be actually approachable and accessible for virtually anyone. And whether you're a climber or not, whether you have the background or whether you want to interpret it in many different styles and ways. At some point we realized, okay, besides the whole climbing and sort of like more outdoor aspect, we also need sort of like this freestyle aspect. And we had sort of like certain people around us where we sort of like realized, okay, this has potential. We can actually start to fool around, jump and do these things. And then we realized, okay, it needs sort of like this infrastructure. It needs athletes, it needs contests and all these things. So we just started doing it. And we started organizing contests, and we started getting these things down, and to a certain level where it actually became something which is now on a level which is I wouldn't say not the smallest, but it has sort of like a nice standing and nice ranking. But the dilemma is, normally it should be an agency that can turn this thing into some sort of a profit center and some sort of a business. And for us, it's literally impossible. It's really, really hard because I cannot find any partners in industry to help us finance the whole thing. And I make my money basically by selling slacklines. And that's sort of like a dilemma where we're always stuck. So it feels always that, yeah, we have the money to fly everyone in and then have a good time. But there's a lot of work and a lot of effort to make that actually happen for us. And it's here, you know, why we've been doing this for so long. Because if there would be anyone else sitting here in this office chair, they would look at the numbers and say, like, doesn't make sense. And I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to, the full combo thing, for example, was something where there's no real slackline company involved. So actually, although at the beginning we were like, oh, somebody else is doing it, we realized, cool, actually, someone else is doing it, you know? And I think we want to help on that side. We still are going to do stuff. And I guess there comes another aspect into the whole story, and that's, of course, the current situation with Corona. Where we are a little bit skeptical that anything physically event-wise is still going to happen this year. I don't know how I guess the whole wave is rolling in South America. I guess even though there's sort of like in North America is slowly starting to go down and decline, it's going to be still very hard to organize physical contests this year.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think in general, yes, I think we should really get these things together. I think the problem I had always also in the past to get like 12 top athletes from on the girls' side is much more of a financial investment than the men, because I get 8 men and the rest come just like that. And they are not so much spread around all the whole world, you know. And I think that's sort of like the dilemma we have on that side. And yeah, where there are two hearts beating always inside of us, you know, and sort of like discussing how we can actually make this happen. And at the same time, yeah, we have to think of ourselves a little bit as well, because can we afford these type of things? Not just financially, but also time-wise, you know, because normally this should be done by an agency that takes care of events and not by a company that sells products. It just happens to be because we started it at the beginning that we know how to create good events and good contests. And yeah, but do you guys understand sort of like from where I come, you know? And I totally agree, but I think what I would find super attractive and interesting is A, role models, super important in my opinion. You know, I think Rosa is already starting it, but I think I'm trying to tell Giovanna all the time to like, come on, you are very inspiring, you know, do something, show it as well, talk about it, you know, because there's a certain importance, in my opinion, you know, to motivate by inspiration and to give reasons why, and to that I can't do that as a man, to say like, girls, it's going to be awesome, you know. And so from that side, you know, it's just like, if we want to do this, we have to do this together. Good. I have, like I said, I have a few questions of myself. We also have a few questions here on this side. For example, Sarah Mikami, for example, asks you guys, it's like, how do you process to learn a trick? Maybe just to jump over. So how do you start to train off the slack? So I think that's what she's trying to ask, is like, what is your approach when you sort of like try to learn a trick? Does any one of you guys really want to, maybe Valentina, do you want to answer this?
Hi! Hi everyone.
at least me, it's like I start step by step. Like if I want to do like a free fall, I always try to do a step by step, like 180 and then 180 fishes, and then I just pull all together, and usually it works really really good. And other times, other ways, you just do it. Like you think about it, you do it in the ground first, and then you go and you just do it in the line. Happens with me and a new trick that I got, and it was like, what? And I start step by step, and then step by step, and I think, oh, this is the way. I just put all together and boom. That was the question, right? How you do it? Like when you want to do it, right?
I guess from
the question was more like.
Sorry,
Question
Sarah?
was more like, do you train like in a gym or something, or do you directly go on the Slack and you start learning the tricks?
I know. I just start like I saw it in the park, and I just go walking, and yeah, I didn't learn it from the gymnastic or anything like that. I just saw the guys doing stuff, and I say, okay, I can do it. And yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's one thing I'm asking myself. You know, when it comes to like how can we develop this whole story? And I think one important question I would like to ask as well is like, to what extent can we help other girls to learn to approach the sport the right way? You know, I think, I mean, Rosa and Josa and Jana, sorry, I keep reading your name, Jan. We had this conversation already over the last weeks. And the question is like, to what extent could it be interesting that we share our experience and our approach? If you understand what I mean. So Rosa, for example, is now starting to create step-by-step tutorials how to approach and access, basically, and she's doing it from our own perspective. So that's why I actually liked your question, Sarah, not necessarily just from the location-based question, but actually also, it's like, I'm asking myself, is there an interest out there for other people to actually have like a step-by-step tutorial by like the athletes out there? Yo-yo!
Hi.
And you know, and we were even discussing of giving if there's an interest maybe even in personal training, because nowadays now with Zoom and with other online training courses, why not, you know, why not offering it to other people around the world to say like, hey, do you want to have like 1 hour 30 minutes of training session with me? And I think that is a really interesting thought. You know, it may not be scalable in that sense, but it can be a very interesting approach. You know, do you guys understand?
For example, I'm sorry. For example, I did it in quarantine because there is an Italian new trick girl that wanted to learn tricks, and I did a video call 1-to-1. And I try to explain her step by step how to learn chest and 180 and something else. But for me, that I come from gymnastics, it's very important to learn, for me, things and tricks before on the ground, maybe on a mattress. I focused on the movement, on the trick, and I try to do it landing on the ground.
Mm.
And then I take it on the slack. So this is for me because I did gymnastics for 15 years. So I know how to do each movement, but before I have to change the landing, because in gymnastics it's here and in the tricklining is this. So I print or I draw a line on the mattress, and I imagine to start do free fall, for example, and landing on the right side, and step by step by the ground to the slack line. But I did it just for few people, Manuela too, and nothing else.
I guess.
But this is because in gymnastics there is a teacher, a trainer that explain you each movement in the right way that you have to do it. So it is for me it's necessary to train and to learn with one that's know how is the good way to learn this movement, and then explain to the beginner. Not just I can't do for now a tutorial video. Maybe I can show how I do it, but I don't know that if my technique is good or not. I need a teacher for this. In fact, when I went to Santa Monica last year with Manuela and Olga and Dylan, sorry, Olga. There is a teacher. There were people that know how to do tricks and explain me personally how to do them. So the most important thing for helping people to get into trickline, help girls to go into trickline, is to have be a teacher for them, a personal teacher that is that follow if they are one if they are on the same line, like Olga did with me, with the hand keep to help to do the backflip on the line, so one with the other. So if we organize training all together to share the knowledge, maybe is a good idea. Not events, no sponsor, but teach everyone what he can do to the other people, because tricklining in different between with the gymnastic is not so competitive. The good thing, the difference is this: you go and you share your what you can do without anything of competition, I don't know what's the name, sorry. And help me please. And people can help other people. Girls can help other girls. And we we make the video with Olga and Manuela to show how the beauty of girls can go in trickline.
I would suggest on that side as well that as I will put this discussion here on YouTube, that we will add basically the link to your video in the subscription.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
I guess.
Can I continue a little bit on that subject, because it's important? I think that can I continue a little bit on that subject? I think that if somebody is a very beginner, like never tried tricklining, it would be really hard to try it without anybody else right next to that person, because there are so many little details that are important, like how you turn your knee into the line, how you position your butt, like how you create bounce from your chest. But I think if we could record somebody teaching a beginner, that would help, you know, like, because if you just create a tutorial, you miss a lot of little details because you already know how to do the movement. And when somebody is learning, you get questions that you never even thought about. It's like, so where does this leg go? You know, like, and you don't think about it. or like how do you hold the line? So if it's like Jada said, like you learn mostly when you're next to someone, like in a group. So if you could create, I don't know, like a master class and have actual beginners learn and ask their questions, I think that would be the most productive. But I think if somebody is a higher level, then it's possible to do it over the internet. Like if I'm learning a certain trick, I would send it to like Josa, hey Josa, or other people, and I'll be like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Or compare. I think like the best thing to learn is to have a video catalog of different tricks being filmed from different angles. I know they partly exist, but not for like all of the tricks, because and the best thing would be if you can do it in your app. If you create your own video, like let's say I'm trying a front flip, and I can compare it frame by frame with somebody who can already do front flip. So I could see, okay, so I'm turning my shoulders the wrong way at this moment. And that's kind of like the best correction that you can do while you're learning like trick, like not like very, very basic tricks, but a little bit higher level tricks. So I think those are important.
Mm. The way I see it is, I guess the topic of having an online course or an online person-to-person tutorial, theoretically, you can just do it over WhatsApp video, you know, it's no big deal in terms of technical possibilities we have nowadays. I think the personal touch, I totally agree, Jada, is a lot better, of course, than just having, here are the tricks, and then you do the trick 100 times, you realize your hand is actually like this and not like this. And you don't see it yourself. But if, for example, you, Olga, would be there and you see basically, at least over video, how the person is doing it, you can say like, hey, turn around your hand, try it again. So I see a certain benefit in this approach, not just because I know that a lot of the athletes out there have time at the moment because they don't have any business. Okay, well, not Jana maybe, but there are quite a few out there. But in any sense, what I find interesting as well, and this is something I think we haven't been talking about. On the one side, you know, with Jada, we've been talking about, you know, the methodic approach. You know, as a gymnast, you learn
the school. Like a
this
school,
is how it has been done, to do it technically correct, you know, and there are certain ways how to approach it to train, sort of like the karate kid, you know, wax on, wax off, and you do that a million times and suddenly you know how the movement works, you know. And at the same time, the other thing is, and this is sort of like why I asked Valentina, is there's also an aspect of style and character, you know. And like if we have, for example, let's say again Valentina, and we compare Valentina to Rosa, it's a completely, not just because it's a different category of tricklining, but it's also a different style. And you know, if I take like Josa and Jan, for example, it's very easy to compare. Although they still do high tricklining, Jan focuses on mostly doing everything from his feet, and Josa has a different approach, you know, and is more on flips, you know, and Jan is more maybe technical things. And that's what I would find, for example, super interesting, to say like, okay, I want to learn to slackline like Valentina. I would like to slackline like Olga. I would like to slackline like Jada, like Rosa, like Giovanna, you know, that you guys all have character in how you slackline. And that would help on the one side, you know, to sort of like push you forward as a form of inspiration, not just because you're just anyone who's had 15 years of gymnastics background, you know, but you've actually turned it into something, not just that I can do the butt flip, but I do it in a way that I can help you to do it like that.
Yeah.
You know? And I think
that happened with me.
Super attractive, interesting. And I think we always have the disadvantage of like video tutorials. Sorry, I'm jumping on this topic a lot because I find it super attractive at the moment. It doesn't have the quality of being able to hold someone's hand. It doesn't have the quality of just standing right next to it, but it's still an attractive option because we are all sitting here on this global net. And we are at the moment, if I put this on YouTube, we will be talking to anyone on this planet. And it's not just someone from the US or someone just from Italy or someone just from Chile or Ecuador or Peru or wherever, you know. It is basically anyone. And we can theoretically also reach out to anyone and give personal trainings. And that's what I find super, super interesting.
Robert, you guys have like Gibbon Fridays. Why don't we all pick a day of the week and just like each of us will create like a certain video that you would post like every week, and that little thing once a week will push, you know, the female sport forward.
Done. Let's do it.
What do you girls think?
I'm totally with you guys. It's like I said, I cannot do it physically for you, you know. I cannot tell, all right, Jana, you do the tricks for me, or I do the tricks for you. No, I need you guys on board, and I need and that's why I'm saying it's like I can help. Easy steps is putting you on our platform, you know. And then the other steps is like you said, Olga, you know, finding fun and interesting and inspiring topics we can then sort of like publish and share together. Okay, so anyone down to do this with Olga and us?
Yeah, sure. So what was it? No, I'm kidding, but you want to do what? Really? What?
So the idea was, do you girls remember that Gibbon has like Gibbon Friday, and they would post every time on Friday, they would post a Gibbon video with the same guy. But anyway, so
Manuel does this stuff.
I was just suggesting if we could pick a day of the week and come up with different topics, like whatever is more inspiring for each of us. Like we can talk about injuries, we can talk about like learning static tricks, we can learn, I love talking about gear, safety, fears, like whatever everyone is passionate about, because I think it's all about, like Robert said, about style. Like Valentina, you have awesome like height and awesome like grabs, and like that creates a style, you know, like every one of us has like a specific thing that we're passionate about and we're good at. It's not necessarily the same thing, but and maybe like somebody from Gibbon can coordinate like what the videos are about, so they're about maybe different things, and coordinate like a schedule whenever the videos need to be ready to be posted, and like the length of the videos. I don't know like what the requirements are.
What do you think about the topic like girls' passion on slacklining? And then we introduce you guys one by one.
But passion, oh, sorry, what do you say?
What's your passion about slacklining? You know, this is a rhetorical question. Is sort of having it as the topic, you know, and then Giada, you can go, for example, on the methodical approach, for example, you know, you say like, okay, I've discovered the sport, and I said like, all right, perfect for me, you know, and I can use my background, history, knowledge, and everything, and this is what I'm super interested about. Olga is super interested about gear and technology and safety, and talking about sort of like, where does it make sense? Do I have to start maybe with a high setup? Does it make sense only to train on low setup? At what point, which trick should I go a little bit higher? You know, and there's many different things, you know. And Valentina, you just say like, okay, all right, I want to show you guys how you can fly, you know. Or Rosa, you can sort of like say like here, and that gives you the possibility to present yourself. And then of course we can always of course say it's like, hey, if you want a personal training, here's the number, sort of, you know.
I think Claire can talk about the transition between static tricks and tricklining. A lot of people are asking about how to do that. And if we can bring somebody Japanese, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit difficult now with these meetings, because I mean, right now it's like 4 o'clock in the morning.
But I'm sure if you introduce the idea to them, that would support that.
Totally. By the way, Yukimi says hi to all of you guys. She's coming back. after her child at the birth, and this keeps nagging me and annoying me. It's like, am I back in the gym? I want to go. It's like, okay, I didn't know.
Nice.
I didn't know. It's like, are you continuing? All right, great, let's do it now. And I guess Ayumi is also motivated, and of course, I mean, with the Japanese, there's a lot of dedication when they approach, and a lot of methodical training.
Wow, yeah.
Good school.
And yeah, I mean, we've been always trying to integrate, put people together in a group, you know, and not just send them under competition, but have the opportunity for them to exchange their experiences when they're together. And I think now, besides the topic of, you know, being able to have something in the future where we have physical contests again, I think now we have the opportunity to strive and walk towards it by doing stuff with the means we have right now. And one is to like create personal videos to talk about things, and the other is starting to look at like topics, you know. I think confidence is something, you know, which you guys have probably gained through the sport, you know.
Also, sorry, Robert. Also, another idea. I think since we're here together, I think we can help each other to create the video. Like, it's similar to what Rosa was doing with her videos. It's like, how do you imagine like this trickliner? And then people say, oh, this, and this, and this. What do you think? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you imagine this trickliner? But instead of that, we can do like, what are the questions to that? Like I would like to ask a Rosa, or I would like to ask a Claire or Giada or like Manuela. Like, we can create those like list of questions, and maybe since we can do it like on the ongoing basis, we can address like one question at a time, or like two questions at a time. Like, we can help each other to open up, because I think like because we know each other so well, we can address the right thing. Because sometimes people don't even understand what their talent is, but it's like you can kind of tell from the third perspective, if it makes sense.
Well, to give feedback, basically. Totally. Shall we continue with a few of the questions that came up? There's a question. There's another one. How do you process to learn tricks? Ich freue mich einfach über neuen Input. Okay. A question from Jana Rosa.
Yeah.
Which part of the body tricks do you prefer to stick and which not?
I think because there's, you know, also when I think about tricks, maybe it's too much of tricks made by men.
Jana, higher voice, please. Higher pitched voice.
Can you hear me now? I guess it's the microphone over here.
No, it's like your voice sounds really male.
Yeah, you have to sound more female.
Okay. Well, I didn't hit my balls enough against the line properly yet. But yeah, I was thinking also here, because so many tricks are made by men, except those stretchy ones where really we use the flexibility of the body, then the girls are becoming more dominant in those tricks. But most of the times, yeah, the guys are doing so. And then the community is following the most of like the fashionable tricks, the popular tricks, or the tricks which are like, so there are a lot of tricks which are kind of made by men a lot. And like we are learning what we see all the time. And then I thought also, like, is there kind of girls prefer, you know, like for example, Rosa, she does a lot of dynamic statics, less bounce, because also her style. But well, definitely it's all about pain as well, because there are some body parts which we don't really like to, or maybe the weight of the body, like in different locations, it's a bit, you know, uncomfortable. And then I just thought about it. Maybe you don't like back bounce as much as I do.
I love back bounce.
So, but yeah, I have too many like topics in one question, but
yeah.
to make it simple, it's more about like, yeah, do you prefer more on the butt instead of chest? And because I remember with Giovanna, we were joking back in the days, me with Giovanna directly too, about like bounces and so on. But she has her own approach how she does some tricks, and it's different for her.
Yeah, I mean, you mean the chest bounce, doing it more sideways and stuff like that. But I think the interesting point out of this question is sort of like, you know, it's like developments which are happening, you know, where is there a way to approach tricklining in a way which makes it actually hard for men to follow, because tricklining has been mostly developed by men into that prefer sort of like the more dominant physique of men, that they can fly higher to make more rotations and stuff like that, without sort of like saying like, okay, slacklining with girls is all about doing the splits, if you understand what I mean. But I think it's an interesting question, I think. No?
Yeah, but for example, because if you change just because it feels, for example, for Giovanna, it feels a bit different, or it is different to do a chest bounce, just the way it's better for her, right? And then
It's a boob question, girls.
A boob
No.
For me, it's not a problem.
No. That's what I said.
Problem.
Without trying to go into that direction, I think the interesting question is really like, is there a form of tricklining which can favor sort of like, let's say, the flexibility of the traditionally better flexibility of women? I think it's not a stupid question from that side. Of course, yes, the boob question, whether it just goes like this or like this.
Come on, Claire, Rosa, say something.
actually, we don't jump on the line like all Koreans, you know, like between
Why not?
We jump on the side.
Why not?
Pass myself along.
And because of that, we have developed a bunch of tricks just, you know, going from the side. And there are few people doing like or landing in the middle.
Korean is painful for girls as well.
Yeah, I'm teaching a guy to do a chest bounce. He's like a third time training, and it's really hard for like beginner trickliners to manage their, you know, like household around the line. So, but I think like for us, it's also not pleasant to land on a line in the middle, like even though we don't have balls. So it's about like managing your body around.
Yeah, but again, I wanted to move away from the genitals,
body parts,
the body part topic, more towards sort of like
the flexibility and stuff.
See that the sport could develop its own style amongst female tricklining, because there are certain advantages you may have in comparison to men.
What Rosa has to say, maybe Jose can translate, or Claire, because they're into aesthetics.
Yeah, I don't speak English, sorry.
Yeah, maybe Jose he knows you, so maybe he can reply.
I don't understand anything. Sorry.
Jose, maybe you can translate.
The way, for example, you, Rosa or Claire, you know, when it comes to dynamic static, the way you do your tricks, I think is very hard to copy as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, let Jose translate.
And I think Jan had now a question that went into many different directions, but I think one part was this, and it's actually an interesting question. Is that something we could follow on and build up on it to make sort of like the sport or the approach for female tricklining actually something which favors again women in that sense, and where in the past, you know, everything has been developed by men and more orientated towards their advantages, if you understand. Yes, Diana?
I can speak, please. Le voy a decir, I speak in Spanish and
yeah, sure.
Okay. Yo pienso que si te lo propones, lo haces. Así de sencillo.
Yeah, she thinks it doesn't matter, because if you want to do something like any trick, you can do it even if you are man or female.
Yo no,
Yeah.
o sea, yo no vengo de ningún deporte, yo no soy flexible, yo trabajo muchos años mi flexibilidad y creo que de verdad si el que la sigue la consigue.
Okay. She doesn't have had any sport background, you know, and she wasn't any flexible back then or anything. So it's mostly like all work, you know. If you're working on a trick or something, you're going to get it. It doesn't matter.
I think my personal opinion is as well. It's like fuck gender, you know, and look at style, you know. And I think you know, I think that's sort of like my personal opinion. I know that there's a certain type of attractivity towards thinking in that direction, you know, to make the sport unique with their own approach and all these things. But yeah. What other questions do I have? We have, sorry, it's a bit late here and I'm having difficulties to read. So we have Valentina's question here. She's been waiting long enough. Maybe I start the question, then you finish the question, because you've got a long explanation behind your question, Valentina.
Well,
Okay.
no,
So
I was
about what are you guys afraid in slacklining?
yeah.
So what she's trying to explain sort of like is like, are you afraid of injuring yourself? Or for her, for example, it's being afraid that she what did it say, like that you can't do it anymore, that you can't progress anymore. That
Yeah,
you
yeah.
sort of like a level
Yeah,
where
because
you just can't get any better. And that's where she is, for example, most afraid of. So how is it for you guys?
no te escucho yo.
We can't hear you.
Ay, sí. Ay, no se escucha.
Dice
¿Alguien
que
escucha ella? ¿Yo no la escucho?
¿No la escuchas?
No.
Maybe you have to switch on your microphone. Claire, do you want to maybe talk about this topic?
Okay, I think about what am I afraid, or about the progression?
No,
no.
Because there's two. About the progression.
No, what you are afraid of when it comes to slacklining. What is your biggest fear?
Maybe if I cannot slacklining. So I had a big injury before, like a few years ago. I was not able to do sport, and I think with slacklining it's fun, because if you have an injury, you might do something else. Like I don't know, if you have a problem to your knee, you can try there, and there is a lot of different modalities of slacklining, so it's always possible to try something else, like a lot of trickliners when they're, I don't know, when they're, or they think that they done tricklining, they start to do highlining, which is which are big sensations, and you can trick on a highline. So that's what I think. Like, there is a lot of slacklining. So yeah, to me, it's possible to always do something new and progress all the time. So maybe, yeah, the fear would be like slacklining. That would be terrible. So maybe injury. I don't know.
Okay. Perhaps Yo-Yo, do you want to complement something on that side?
Yeah, for me it's definitely injuries, because I was hurt a lot in the beginning. Like, I had a lot of bruises and stuff going on. So I'm always afraid, especially if I'm learning new tricks. Like, getting hurt really badly because I can't really remember where I'm in the air or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
May I ask, why do you continue then?
because it's a lot of fun.
What is your drive, behind it?
Because it's so unique, I think. When I'm training like in the park or somewhere, there are always like people coming up to me like, oh, what are you doing? Are you in a circus or something? And yeah, I think that's something really important for me, that it's so unique and the people are really interested in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else wants to put a comment down?
Yeah, well, all of you being asked probably about like, are you not afraid to get injured, right? Like scary thing to do. But for me, was always the answer. For example, it's in general like girl, guy, the long-term injury, which I cannot see that it's coming. For example, if I do some flip on a slackline, I probably know that I can break myself, arm, leg, something, and I go for it. I know I can break it, but I want to do a flip. So, and then, but for me, it's the most scary that I'm thinking that I'm not getting injured, but one day there's an injury which just is being accumulated in 10 years, 15 years. And then suddenly I'm like, shit, I was doing something wrong, or I didn't take care enough.
Mm.
So this is like,
I guess speaking from my limited experiences, like being on a competitive level, I used to play volleyball a lot in my youth. And I mean, for me, it was easy. I was never going to be that tall. So I was never going to be on a very high level, because in volleyball, you just have to be tall. Otherwise, you have no chance, sort of like, or very little chance. And what I was always scared of a lot in that sense was more also actually the being scared of long-term injuries, because I had, with 15 years of age, I had lots of friends who were the same age who had severe back problems already. Because volleyball is not a sport where you immediately can injure yourself, but if you do like 300 jumps every day and your technique is bad and you land always, it ends up always in your spine and you suddenly have severe back problems, although you're only 15. So what we did is we took this very seriously, and we approached it on a very serious level when it came to like stretching, movement, technique, and all these things. And I think that's something, where I see Jada nodding her head here to say like, yes, this is the reason why we do these methodic approaches towards learning how to do our tricks to minimize these risks. And I guess the interesting thing is always what I'm fascinated with slacklining is a coordinated sport. And if you coordination is something which you acquire, which does not disappear very quickly. I'm actually suffering from that problem myself right now, because I went back to skateboarding last week and actually injured myself, because technically I'm strong enough to do it, but physically I'm not strong enough anymore. And so that's the danger of being good in coordination when your physics are not behind it. But I think at the same time, yeah. But anyway, we were about actually fear.
Yeah. I think there's a different. Oh, sorry. Who is speaking?
You can go. You can go.
I was gonna say that I've noticed that girls and guys learn differently, but it also depends on the background. Like, let's say when Giada came here, like it would be like just enough to show what the movement is, and she would just mimic it and would be like done. But like if somebody's without the sports background, maybe Rosa can relate. It's really hard to build up the skill, because like if you have a gymnastic background, how you imagine a frog flip? Oh, you just go on your chest and then you backflip. Like your legs split the line or whatever. Like for people who don't have the sports background, even just like a backflip or a front flip would be consistent on like 50 different steps that you need to follow. It wouldn't be just like turn your shoulders and then flip. So for me, like I wasn't scared, and I'm not scared of pain. But for me, it's hard to actually maybe because I'm older and I don't have the sports background, it's hard. Like I just have a block. Like I would know where to throw the trick, but my brain would be like, no, we're not doing this. This is dangerous. No, we're doing it on this side of the line. So for me, it's mostly getting through those barriers. That's the hardest part. Like I wouldn't call it fear, but I would call like you have to build up enough confidence, comfort, like being comfortable or whatever you need to do to break it, to go through and throw the trick. I know like some girls like Claire. I saw Claire the first time. She was doing static tricks, and then the next thing I saw her doing was a backflip on the line with two guys holding her hands. You know, like it's not something I would do, but that's something I admire. But I know like there are a lot of people who are like me who would go like little steps. But I personally want to inspire those people that even with little steps, you can still get there. And sometimes it causes less injuries too. I'm not saying like the approach that just like send it is bad, but like if somebody wants to avoid injuries, I think that's the approach to take. And you're right, Robert, about like the injuries. There's like another type of injuries where you encounter to just by overtraining certain muscles. Like we overtrain our hip flexors because we bring our knees to our chest all the time. And there's like a bunch of stuff you can do to stay in good health. I know like a lot of trickliners, they quit the sport, not a lot, but like some trickliners quit the sport because they had lower back pain. Like they couldn't get rid of lower back pain. Like there's in like that aspect, I'm also very passionate about that and helping people to avoid that and keep training. Maybe also because I'm older and we encounter more, like if an 80-year-old trickliner falls on their head, or like a 37 trickliner falls on their head, is a different like scenario right there.
That's the reason why I broke my arm. It's just I'm not the youngest anymore. But
I've been thinking about it. Like when I grow up, and I want to do stuff now because I think that maybe when I get older, I'd be more like afraid of than I am right now. I'm not afraid really, like super afraid. But some of those tricks are a little bit crazy. I can imagine them anyway. And about the question, I'm really scared of not the progress. I've no like you know, the fear is the fear, and then it's the trick. Don't break that, like, and don't progress. Yeah. And the injury, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm super afraid of injury. But if I think a lot about it, then I always get injured. So I prefer to don't think about it, just go for it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know.
Valentina's definitely our punk rock woman here. Okay, guys, we are slowly going towards the end of the session. I think there's one question from Giada here, which we've got on the list, and it's more of a technical question. Who was the first girl actually to land the Skyfall on a trickline? Might be of personal interest, I guess. Do you guys know? I honestly don't know.
No. I got one question more for that. Another trick. Does any girl landed backflip to back, Estonian?
I don't know if Mio did. But
no, yet. Yeah, I started to
search for her,
but I didn't saw any video about it.
I mean, Mio has done the back burner so far. What at least I have seen, and yeah.
I saw Emil back to front, but no backflip to back.
Okay. So anyone knows maybe who was the first girl to stick the Skyfall?
I don't.
Are you putting up rhetorical questions here?
Giovanna, no?
I don't know. Just a question. I just wanted to know. So. Me too. I don't know.
And one thing more, like, you know, you speak about my style and blah blah. And I think I got a lot of like different kind of styles of each person that I saw on the trick line. Like I saw a friend doing it so high that I say, okay, I want to fly like him. And I start to fly like him. And then I saw like Moyo flat spin. And I saw a guy doing it, and I say like, oh, and then I saw another guy doing the same trick, and I say, no, I want to do it like him. And that's how I get my style. It's a little bit of a lot of slackliners.
See, the funny thing is, what I would say for you, Valentina, it's not necessarily that a trick or the airflow so that is sticking in my head. It's you tricklining at the World Cup where it's pissing down rain and everyone is hiding and you are standing there on the trickline. Yeah.
The only thing that I could think in that moment, it was like, oh, the line is free. No one wants to go because it's raining and this is my moment. I can go. I want to. And then I.
You guys understand what I mean?
It wasn't too bad. Like with rain or without rain, it was almost the same. It's just when you fell, maybe. But yeah, I don't know.
It shows so much passion and love, you know, for what you do and just enjoyment. I mean, of course, yes, yeah, line is free. But, you know, who gives a fuck? You know, I'm just going to go up there and have some fun. And, you know, and everyone was celebrating you while you were doing it, you know. And in that sense, it was great.
Cool.
Hey, Robert, sorry to interrupt, but I would really like to hear something about, like, I don't know how to say the name, Yerlia.
Yes.
Because I admire her, and maybe somebody can translate if it's easier.
Yeah.
I'm just like really curious about the last post that you did about like fear. It's like about fear and about getting to tricks and about getting injured. Maybe Valentina or Rosa can translate.
Yeah. Yerlia, ¿me escuchas?
Sí, ahora sí.
Ay, sí. La pregunta que te hace acerca del video que subiste ahora último, acerca de los miedos y todo eso. ¿Tenía algo para decir y yo te lo traduzco?
Bueno, lo que pasa es que yo tuve un cambio de mentalidad de cuando empecé a hacer slack y como estoy ahora. Vamos de a poco.
Ya, quédate ahí. So, she changed her mind before she get injured. Like, she started to do a slackline with a mentality, you know, like, different that she has now. ¿Y cuál es tu nueva mentalidad?
Cuando yo empecé, no tenía miedo.
She doesn't have any scare of it.
Era muy loca.
She didn't have any like scare about the trickline. She was really, really, really crazy about it. She didn't think about any like injuries or anything like that. Didn't pass for her mind. But now, okay, dale,
ahora, después de una lesión muy fuerte y que lo pasé muy mal, de fractura expuesta, tuve mucho miedo y después tuve miedo de que al volver no pudiera superar ese miedo, porque antes yo no me había enfrentado a esa barrera.
Ah, interesting. So after she got injured, like really hard, like she get like a really bad injury, she start to think about it, like she start to get afraid of, and now she's thinking about how to how you say it, like I go see superar, weón. Surpass that afraid that she has right now. She's scared about, don't do it, like be scared forever and don't overpass it. Like,
what helps her to keep going after the injury?
¿Y qué te ayuda a seguir haciendo trickline? ¿Qué te ayuda a seguir haciéndolo de cierta manera, aunque tengáis ese miedo? ¿Tratar de superarlo de alguna manera?
Sí. quiero volver a sentir lo que sentía antes de la lesión, de subirme y solo volar y hacer lo que yo quiera. Quiero volver a tener
¿Qué lo
esa
vas a hacer?
seguridad.
¿Qué lo vas a hacer?
The motivation for her right now is get back to what she think about tricklining in that moment, like be not afraid again, like be happy again on the line, like fly like she used to fly before. And yeah, she's like with hope of don't think anymore about the scare or get injured and just do it like she did it before at the start.
Mm. I think there are two things where I could maybe speak from my experience. Is one, like I said, I used to play a lot of volleyball when I was young, and they did a survey in Europe, and it was about, so like, what is the most passionate thing? What is the thing that drives you the most when you play volleyball? And in Germany, you know, I'm here from Germany, they said like 80% of the people said like the sensation of smashing the ball perfectly, and then the ball just goes da-dum, you know, on the other side, and it's like a perfect hit. In Italy, the majority of the volleyball players, as a female and male players, said the thing that drives them the most is actually the possibility you can do with two hands and a ball. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, maybe in Giada, that probably the Italian Volleyball League is the best league in the world. You guys have own volleyball stadiums and so on, and Germany is playing absolutely in the B League. And I think there's a mentality approach, and it reminds me of another thing of, you know, when I started in the 80s with skateboarding, the skateboard video called Public Domain by Paul Peralta. I think everyone who's talked to Jan about the Bones Brigade, he's shared his experiences with this video. It's a very inspiring video. And there's this girl out there, it was 1984, and she was sort of like skating, and she said like she doesn't give a fuck, she doesn't care what other people say or think. She just wants to skate till her bones break. And she doesn't care how good she is, how bad, or what other people think of her, she just wants to have fun. And I think that's been actually something that has stuck to my head for my personal thing, because, you know, when I was in volleyball and I realized I'm not going to be 2 meters tall, so I'm never going to be able to play in a top league, I said, like, I don't care anymore. I just want to enjoy this. And the Brazil scene actually became Olympic champions at that time. And their philosophy was also like, not just like typical German, like we have to, like, you know, fight our way through and everything has to be taken serious, but actually joy comes motivation and more energy, you know, and you can feel, I guess, that if you are feeling good, you are more likely to stick something or a hard trick or land a trick or have a nicer flow than, God knows, you know, when you have to think about something which annoys you or which makes you sad, you know. And I think that's something with what I've been doing always in my life, with whatever I've been doing in slacklining and skateboarding, snowboarding, volleyball, you know.
It's easier to enjoy.
Sorry?
Maybe it's easier to enjoy the sport if you are in a good team. If you feel that you share your sport with other people that are your friends. This is the must point in Italian team, for example.
Yeah. So maybe to do. Yeah. What I find a super interesting question now is, like, we have now probably a very high level of good to world class tricklining here in this group. Where do you see your personal role in this whole development?
About slackline, like, where do...
Well, you guys are amongst the best, okay? And there are hopefully lots and lots of other girls and women that either have just started or are trying to find the way, or maybe are thinking about trying it out after seeing this. So the question is, like, where do you see yourself in this whole thing? Do you feel responsibility for this whole story? You know, I know Olga, for example, sees for herself responsibility. Rosa started now to be more active. I've heard now from Giada, you know, she's going more into like, hey, come on, I'll spread my knowledge, you know. Is there a sense of responsibility in what you guys are doing? Do you feel that? Or do you feel just being an athlete?
No.
So
I want. Okay. Go. Sorry.
Rosa?
For me,
Or whoever.
it's alright.
First, Valentina.
Okay.
So maybe I've been a bit selfish because I just go and enjoy the line and I don't do anything for anyone. I just go and see it and start to jam it. And then I realize I'm like, oh, I got this trick. And if you won't ask me, how can I do it? Yeah, I help you. But maybe, yeah, I got responsibilities about it. Like a lot of girls maybe tell me, oh, I want to do this and blah, blah, blah. And maybe do it. And I didn't help them and maybe they get injured and even like, I don't know. Now that you say it, maybe, yeah, we got responsibilities about it. This is slackline it. But yeah, I didn't think about it really.
But I think, Valentina, you don't have to take it too much in a size as like, I'm doing something crazy and that's why I might endanger other people. I mean,
but
the responsibility can be as well as like to not just show that you have amazing skills, but actually to find ways to motivate other people to find a way to enjoy it and find their own style and find their own approach.
Like people motivate me. Like, yeah, like so others motivate me on the past. Yeah, we do responsibility when we do. I think now that you say I should do something about it. But yeah, next one, go.
Okay, Olga.
Yeah.
Maybe to share your experience from your side, Olga, because I know that you are taking up a lot of responsibility in your position. Maybe to help people how you do it and what you do.
Yeah, I want Rosa to speak though. She wanted to speak after Valentina.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yada?
Me? Okay, sorry. For me, is the most important thing to that all people have to start trickline, man or woman. I want when I do trickline and in the park, if someone is stopping to see me, I say them, do you want to try? I can help you. Come.
Oh, no.
No, it's safe. Don't worry, there is a mattress. Come on, trust me. Come on, I pick your hand.
But you guys know that situation. You guys know that situation, maybe. You approach the person and goes like, no, not me.
No, but it's easy. The message is everyone can do slackline. Everyone can do trickline. This is my aim in trickline, for example. In Italy, at first, because you know, Slackline Cecina is my team, and I want in my city, in my town, to build something, a place where children and other people can try in safe the sport. That this is the point in Italian bureaucracy. Trickline, slackline is not a sport, so we can't have the allow, the permission to make people try it in safe without an execution, because it's not a sport, it's not recognized. So there is no one that want to take the responsibility of injury, for example, for make people try slackline. But for me, I want to do it with my association, with Slackline Toscana, and we will make people firm, like in workshop, for example. Okay, I want to try this, and I take all the responsibility on myself, and they sign it, the firm, and then they can do it. But my aim is to build a school of slackline, a school of trickline. At first, taking slackline into the school, or bringing people, the children, out and to the park and get the permission from the bureaucracy to do it in safe and without people that, what are you fucking doing? No, it's not safe. Stop. I will cut this line.
Yeah. Have you been in contact with Ricardo yet? You know, from Slackline Liguria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to last competition, waterline competition.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because Ricardo's a nice guy, and he does a lot as well.
Yeah. And Rubattino, for example, Rubattino comes to our gym because we built up a gym in my gymnastic gym when I did gymnastics for 15 years. And we set a trickline 2 meters high with a lot of mattress. And when Rubattino comes there, I get injured because I fall. I come out by the trickline, standing, and I fall in a pool between 2 mattresses.
The typical problem.
My foot.
Typical.
Yeah.
Typical.
That's the way it always happens.
I wanted to create a collaboration with Rubattino to maybe have a turn of people that go 2 days and train at night or in the afternoon in the gym, in the morning on the beach, and then we go to Pisa like we did last year with Renzo, Chosa, and Rosa, and Valentina too. And then we will make a show on the Piaggia, that is a park. And the other day we can go to Liguria and to Recco to do 2 days of waterline. Those are the things that can help us to share the knowledge between us that are professional trickliner and at most in the center of the town to make show. That the most important thing is to make show like people you can see you and wanted to do the same. So can I try? Yes, come on. There is water on the ground, so it's not dangerous.
That's great.
There is a mattress, something like.
I think we're at a point now where we're sort of like half an hour over of what we had planned, sort of like for the Q&A and the answers. I think what I wanted to say, maybe to start off with as a big thank you for you guys. I know that the whole thing was a little bit delayed because of my personal family issues I had. And what I wanted to say as well is I would like to emphasize for everyone who's watching this, has been watching this now on YouTube, or who's going to watch this now on YouTube, is that we will set up links to illustrate basically in the description of all of what the girls and the guys here have been active and doing to basically understand a little bit better.
Can I last 2 questions before you end
Sorry,
up?
of course.
So, how many of you actually can set up a trickline by yourself without the help of a friend or guy? Because I remember Eli Schulte. I remember now recently Olga posted something with the chain host, right? And also the way we set up the trickline changes the way we do tricklining on it.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So how many of you just hold up by yourself the proper trickline?
Well, if the trickline is not too long, a girl can put tension on herself. But if the trickline is like over 20 meters, you need, I guess, support to tension enough.
And that's what I think, like, for example, the line what Rosa has usually, it's easier to tension, for example, by a girl than tensioning like 2 huge mega ratchet 20 meters trickline, like at this height.
Yeah, we're thinking at the moment about creating some sort of an extra lever to increase sort of like the power transmission. But this is something currently in development, which we can hopefully show next year.
Yeah, but Robert, besides the lever, you need to adjust the line and the ratchet. Like if you don't adjust it, then it's gonna get ruined. So you need another person. But I would appreciate the lever. I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like when you tense the line, and then how can you say when the line starts to go like
You need to
one
adjust.
side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it snaps.
That's crazy. Like I can't do it. I have to put like a line and then my foot and then press and then and it works, but it's super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the thing is what we've been looking at in terms of development. You know, we can always, of course, strive for making the absolute best trickline there is out there, but then the question is who can afford it. So we've been trying always to find sort of like a midway to have sort of like a system where which is affordable yet at the same time possible to rig in tension, because of course there are certain systems which work sort of like on a level where you can sort of increase. If you get, for example, like a chain hoist, for example, it works much easier because you can create much more tension on a much higher, easier level, but then you need sort of like extra equipment on top, and then suddenly everything becomes fairly expensive. So I think, and then it becomes very exclusive and it becomes less and less and less accessible, basically. But I think what I wanted to say in general, I would like to use the opportunity of this meeting to say like thank you to all of you guys. I would like to also emphasize that I think this shouldn't be the last Q&A round about this topic. This is my personal opinion. I would like to say that we are definitely going to put the whole Girls' Day of the Week up. I think we can all agree on that. That is something which would be awesome if we can do that. And what I wanted to say as well is we are going to share on the YouTube video basically links to which you guys are going to give to me, or which we know already, to show the world basically that you guys are not just people who are talking, but actually are people actually who are already pretty active. And that's what I would like to emphasize with this video. And from that side, again, I want to thank you all. And especially also for here, Jana, because I know it's like 12:30.
Yeah.
At night.
Actually, thanks. And actually my friend wanted to ask that, but he's not here, so he's not able to guess like of a guys like Choza mother, you know, but he's not good enough, you know. He realized also at some age that he's not good enough anymore to beat Choza at the competition. So he was thinking about like, can he compete like becoming a transgender in a female? Just a little change in the name.
Ask your friend, right?
Are you in contact with Red Bull right now, and you're trying to find a way to get better results with Red Bull? Because I know this part in your contract where it says you have to reach minimum 5th place in every contest.
I will tell him then. That's your okay.
Okay, tell him we're working on it. It would be awesome to have a transgender contest. I want to see one.
Okay, thanks, girls.
Great.
All right. So thank you again. And in 2 weeks, we're going to start up our next Q&A round. Don't miss out next week for the quiz. Giada was with us last week or last time. It's good fun. It's a nice topic to do, especially for people who are currently in lockdown. It's basically based on a pub quiz. We're putting out fun questions about slacklining, about Gibbon, about the history of the athletes, some cheeky, uncomfortable stories and questions, also information. And even if you may not know every question, you will get the answers. So from that side, it's a nice informative topic. if you guys want to join us and throw in any other questions and answers into that story, feel free to contact us on that side. But until then, have a good evening, a good day, and a good night. And thank you very much for this first session. And I hope that we could make this grow, because I think it's a nice format, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, girls.
Bye.
Bye.